In the 10 years that I've been a hairdresser, I have never come across anything as horrific as this. And this was done by a hairdresser. A hairdresser who's been doing hair for over 6 years. I don't know how long she's been doing it, but she's been doing it for a long time. Long enough to know better. So this is what I have to fix in my chair today, and I'm going to take you through the entire process of what I did. So stick around. Let's take this from the top. Basically, my client sits down and tells me she has a ton of oil in her hair to help do a hydrating treatment to it because it's so fried and damaged. So this is what it looks like. I wanted to give you guys a quick look before I start my actual service of what the hair looked like when she first sat down versus what we began with, because we did a clarifying shampoo before we started our service. But as you can see, she's got like gray and orange and black and brown and blue in her hair. It's a crazy mess. Look at that underneath there. I was shocked. I was shocked to see that a hairdresser had done this. By the way, if you guys want to see the full consultation, I do have a previous video where I've posted the entire consultation of my thought process and everything and what we were going to be planning on doing. And because this is a color correction, things change as we go. Step by step, things will change. So I'm going to take you guys through that entire thing. But if you were interested in seeing the consultation, go back to my previous video and you'll see it there. And that'll give you a good little base idea of what we're going to be planning on doing today. But I still am going to go through this in pretty intense detail in what we did step by step. So we needed to start out with a clean canvas. So I took her to the sink and decided to do a couple clarifying shampoos. And the reason why I do this also, to get rid of the oil treatment that she has in her hair, because if you just put a bunch of product on that oil treatment, you're going to have a really weird result. The oil is going to stop the product from working properly. And you can see the water getting murky there. That's just from the oil. But I'm using some Cezanne clarifying shampoo because it's one of the best ones. And you can see right here that there's so much treatment in there that the product isn't even like foaming up. So I had to shampoo her, I think like maybe 3 times. And what this clarifying shampoo is also going to do is strip out as much of that toner that's in her hair as possible. So basically what's in her hair right now is previous highlights. Then her stylist did a bleach root on her, several months of root. And then she tried to cover up with the orange that was all over her hair in the bleach roots because they were done wrong. She tried to cover that up with a blue-based toner. And what happened was the blue-based toner didn't pick up on the orange. It only picked up on anything that was like a level 9 or lighter. And because there was a level 9 in her roots, it turned the roots kind of this greenish gray color. And then it turned all of her previous highlights that had been over-processed and overlapped that were like at a level 10, it turned them blue and gray. So a clarifying shampoo is going to be strong enough, especially if you do it about 3 or 4 times like I'm doing here, giving it a good squeeze out, using quite warm water in here to open up the cuticle of the hair and drop as much of that toner as possible. Because with the gray tone next to the orange tones, it can be very hard to see what is lifted to the level that we want it to be at and what is overprocessed. So we're trying to drop as much of that toner as possible because we're going to have to go through this whole head and do a platinum card. And from what I can see with these previous highlights is these previous highlights were not done well at all. I'll show you a little bit more of that later, but this is going to brighten up everything that's already really bright and leave everything dark that is dark and give us a clear image of what needs to be lifted and what doesn't. So I'm going to blow dry her and you can see what she has. This is what her hair looks like, just blow dried smooth. You can see on the top there's just patches of black everywhere. There's patches of silver and white and orange at the ends because her previous highlights hadn't been brought down far enough in several sessions. There's crazy overlapping. There's tons of breakage. There's orange. There's every color your hair could possibly be within this head of hair. So this is the most intense color correction I've ever had to do. So you can see that she has bleached the roots and there were previous highlights. And where the highlights don't meet up or where she hasn't been careful enough to go over any previous lowlights or anything, you can see all of that within each strand of the hair all over the head. This overall looks like extremely lazy hairstyling, and I'll go into a little bit more of that later on. But this is what the worst area looks like. It's kind of at the occipital bone in the back of her hair. These are massive chunks of color left behind. There's so much risk into bleaching any of this, especially because we have level 10 right next to level 2. And I have to bring that level 2 up to a level 9, 10 without snapping that level 10 stuff that's right next to it. And I also have to bring up this level 6, 7, and 8 that's all blended up into the level 2 area. And yeah, all on previously processed hair, very dry. But we're going to see what we can do today. And we're definitely going to need the help of, some good quality products. And these ends are super orange because I don't know. Honestly, I'm so unimpressed with what has been done in the past here. And I don't mean to be, talking crap about another stylist, but come on, guys. Come on. Like this is so unacceptable to be doing this on someone's hair and charging them money. So we're going to start with K18 today because without K18, I don't think that I would have ever even approached this service because of the high risk nature of breaking off all of her hair. In the consultation video, you'll see that she does not want to lose much length, but I do convince her to get some layers in her cut and get a couple of inches off of the length. But yeah, she doesn't want to have dark hair and she doesn't want to go short. So we're definitely going to need the use of K18 today to help out. So I'm just super generously spraying this all over the hair, and I'm going to be working it all the way through with a brush, brushing it through and letting it sit for 4 minutes as it needs to before we begin our service. And I'm going to be using probably more than is recommended on my client today, but we're going to be doing several treatments to her hair to just try to repair the porosity, the strength of the hair, the elasticity, doing everything we can to bring her back to something that is wearable and healthier than it was when she came in. Now I'm going to be mixing up a bowl of Amika Dream Routine, and this is going to be mixed up with the Hydro Rush treatment from Amika. And what I really like about these products is they make the hair hydrated and there's no protein in them, so I can put them on the hair and leave it on the hair for hours and it's not going to over proteinize and damage the hair. So this is one of my first bowls, is the mask bowl, and that's going to be used to coat any over porous and bleached areas I don't want to saturate with bleach. Then I'm going to mix 2 other bowls, and I'm going to mix Blonde Or into both of them. The black bowl is going to be the areas where there's black hair, and the orange bowl is going to be the areas where there's orange hair. So in the black bowl, I want to get the stick of the Wella product, but I also want to get the lift of Blonde Me by Schwarzkopf. So I am mixing 2 lines, which is something that we don't recommend officially, but it's something that I do all the time because, I like to experiment and see what happens. And it turns out this is a really great mix for getting the best of both worlds. You get the Blonde Or that doesn't swell and holds the product in place, and you get the power of Blonde Me, which is fantastic. So I'm mixing that in the black bowl for the lift and the hold, and then for the orange bowl, it's just going to be Blonde Or with 10 volume because I want to lift slower, I want to lift lower, and I want all of these bowls to work together in time to lift everything up at the same level within the same time, which is very, very hard, and it's a guesstimation, but honestly, that's the best I can do. Here's my setup. I have 2 trays. I have my Framar long pre-cut embossed foils. I have a foiling board, and I have my 3 bowls for my 3 areas of color. So even though there's more than 3 colors in each section, I'm going to have to just do a whole bunch of judgment calls. That's why this service is so difficult. With every single strip of hair that I'm doing, I'm going to be making judgment calls on every single piece of hair. So some of these spots will be like, is this too light to be lifted, or is this too damaged to be lifted? But we also want to make sure everything gets to our goal level, which is like a level 9. We're hoping for a level 8.5, 9, somewhere within there, so we can make her really like soft honey golden blonde. We're thinking like Rachel McAdams when she was on that one interview show where she had that beautiful honey blonde. We all know the picture of Rachel McAdams, and she just looked so good. That's the goal that we're going for today. However, if we don't get to that, then that's okay. We're honestly just trying to make it better than what it was. And because this is a color correction, not a color perfection, my client fully understands that this is just trying to make the hair wearable and better than what it is when she came in, because this is, in all honesty, the worst hair I've ever seen in my chair. I have never come across anything as badly colored as this. This does look like a home job. A lot of people were like, oh no, she definitely did her hair at home. And at first I thought so too, but when she went through and explained where she got it done, which is not information that I will be sharing, and who did her hair and the process that had been done, and she'd told me about previous appointments, I do believe that my client had gone to a hair salon to get this done. It just seems so unbelievable that this was done at a hair salon. But, crazier things have happened. So I have my mask because I don't want to be putting protein into her hair, because if you know a little bit about protein masks, is that they can only be on for about 5 to 7 minutes. And if you over proteinize the hair, you end up doing more damage than you do good for it. If you have a protein mask at home, you should know that you should only ever keep it on for as long as the product description says on the back, because protein is one of those things that makes the hair stronger, but hydration is what makes the hair flexible. And if you make something strong without it being flexible, it becomes brittle over time. So if you have damaged hair and you want to be much healthier with your hair, if you want to repair it and make it a lot better, honestly, the go-to is hydration, in my opinion. And because if you overhydrate your hair, it's just going to be greasy and heavy until you wash it again. But if you over proteinize your hair, put too much keratin in it, then it becomes brittle, because your hair needs to be able to bend, and not that much of our hair strand is actually made up of proteins. It's more so made up of, flexible material, and we want to make sure that our hair has flexibility so it can withstand other stuff. But protein, as good as it is, can be overdone, and we definitely don't want to overdo it here. So just hydration for those really bright white blonde spots, because this is going to be staying on for hours on her hair, and I don't want to risk making her hair worse than it is when she came in. Now, you might be asking, oh, no protein, but you did K18. K18 is different than protein, and I'm not the person to ask about the science of K18, because I'm honestly not super well versed in hair sciences, but I am pretty experienced with hair, and my experience with K18 is that it does something different than over-proteinizing the hair. It does like a biomolecular repair. So it goes in on a deeper level and a smaller level and repairs in the molecular kind of zone of the hair on a much smaller scale. And it doesn't have proteins in it, from what I believe. However, I am no hair science goddess. Please go to one of those hair science pages if you need to know more about K18. But K18 has only ever done good things for my client's hair, and that's why I trust it. So we're using that plus a moisturizing mask, and that is it today. No protein masks. Now, what I'm doing here with my platinum card is I'm taking the back quarters first, and my plan is to apply one full quarter, apply the second full quarter, and when the second full quarter is done being applied, I'm hoping that the first quarter that I've applied is ready to be washed out then. And after washing that one out, I can apply the third quarter, wash out the second quarter, and then apply the fourth quarter and wash out the third quarter. And then when the fourth quarter is done, wash that one out. That's the hope and the plan. And that's why I used a 10 volume with the Wella on these like level 6, 7 areas, because I do want it to lift nice and slow. Wella is a much slower lifting product than Schwarzkopf is. And there wasn't really a way for me to time everything exactly and perfect and everything. But I'm really hoping that it all kind of comes together and that the hair gods are on my side and we can work as a team to repair this girl's hair and make it wearable. Now, I'm a little bit upset with the fact that my recording here isn't the best because of the reflectiveness of the foils. We're not really able to see in detail what's going on in each of these foils, but I hope you guys are getting the picture of what I'm really having to go through with every single foil in her head. I'm not going to show you how I foiled the entire head, because you know how long you guys would be sitting here for. Is if I did this in real time and showed you guys every single foil, you'd be sitting here for 5 hours watching me foil, because that's how long it took me to do this. But if even if I did this in 2 times as fast, it's 2.5 hours of just watching foiling happen. Overall, you guys get the picture of what I'm doing. These platinum white blonde bits here are my biggest risk. I really don't want to touch them with any kind of lightener, at least not yet. But the problem is, because they've been overtoned, I do want to remove some toner, and the the big risk here that we have as well when you're applying foils like this for this long on reflective surfaces and you're trying to discriminate between discriminate? You're trying to distinguish. So sorry, I'm stupid today. You're trying to distinguish between the colors that are light enough and don't need to be touched versus the colors that are almost light enough and still need to be touched, but how much do they need to be saturated versus the areas that need to be, super saturated with heavy product. You get what I like to call snow blindness. And snow blindness is what happens when you're out in the snow and the sun is reflecting off of the snow, and it eventually does some damage to your eyes, and it can make it really difficult to distinguish between things that you're looking at. So this is what I get oftentimes when I'm doing foiling work, is if you're trying to tell the difference between a level 8 and a level 9 piece of hair to decide which one should be, bleached over. That's what I call snow blindness. So overall, let's discuss what the previous stylists have been doing with my client's hair. Now, again, I'm not going to be releasing any information on where this stylist's hair was done. I don't want that salon to suffer any kind of repercussions online. Everybody makes mistakes, but I do believe that this hairdresser should be taking some continuing education. And I don't mean to say that in a mean way. It's just, you cannot be charging people for this type of work. And the way that the hairdresser had handled the situation as well is something I'm going to go over because it was not professional at all in any kind of way. So the story with this client, she told me she had been going to see this stylist for 6+ years, and this stylist had been doing highlights for her. And my client had been showing this one image of a blonde with tons and tons of foiling for a very long time. And admittedly, the girl in the photo has probably naturally level 6 or 7 roots and been getting highlights done. So I told my client, like, hey, when we get you to this level of foiling, you're going to have a slightly different result from hers because your roots are naturally quite a bit darker. But I get the idea you're trying to go with, and we're going to try to put in that much blonde in your hair. But the actual 2 colors you're going to have are going to be a slight difference from what the girl has in the photo. And she totally understands that. She's like, this is just the appeal that I'm going for and the, foil placement. But essentially what had been happening is she'd been going to this stylist for about 6 years and asking for these foils to be done. And the stylist said, oh, you're not bright enough. Let's do, we have to do a full head of foils this time. And maybe next time, like, we can go over it, or whatever the situation was. It seems like each time she was just never able to get her bright enough. But when I'm looking at these foils, the facts are telling me that the stylist was applying the color really lazily. She would weave out sections, and in her weave, if there were pieces that had never been foiled before, she would only touch up the root area of what was being done. So she would grab a section of hair, weave it, put it on the foil, and then only put bleach on the rooted area. So it doesn't matter if there was low lights after that first few inches all the way down the rest of the hair, she wouldn't touch it up. And so that's what I'm seeing as a massive problem that was actually much bigger to deal with than the initial bleach roots on highlight situation here. That's already hard enough to deal with when you have a client who comes in and they had highlights done and they tried to get a bleach out done instead of highlights. That's already a really big job. What's even worse is navigating between these tiny broken strands of what has been highlighted and what hasn't. But it looks like every hair has been highlighted, but not continuously all the way down. There are patches of black through every strand of hair, several inches down, here and there, splotched and splattered all over the place. So this stylist had not been consistent with her application, and she hadn't been careful about breakage because she'd also been putting my client under heat every single time. What my client told me had happened with her bleach out appointment was she sat down expecting foils, and the stylist said, you're blonde enough, let's just put a bleach out on you and you'll feel as blonde as this girl. And so my client had been sitting there and was quite confused, but, was like, okay, I guess you know better. And by the way, this footage looks a little different because my camera died, and so I had to use my phone. So that's why this footage looks a smidgen different. But then at least you can see what it looks like with 2 different lighting styles and camera styles. Anyways, back to the story. My client seems a little confused, but she chooses to trust her hairdresser, and her hairdresser puts on the bleach on her scalp. And because she had had a half head done the time before, she had shorter roots up on the top. But I think when she got down to the underneath zones, she realized how much root was truly there. And she was like, well, I'm screwed. Let's just keep on trucking with this and see what we get. So she puts that bleach on her scalp and then puts her under the dryer. She put her under the dryer to heat up the bleach that was on my client's scalp. And I'm going to tell you, there are lots of ways you can do hair. There are lots of different things that you can do. You can experiment with the chemicals the way I do sometimes. But on the tubs of bleach, it says do not apply heat. And I know sometimes we need to add a little warmth to get that product going or make it move a little faster, or, everything gets cold in the salon. You need to add a little warmth to make sure nothing dries out too fast. But you are never, ever, 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 ever supposed to put someone with scalp bleach on under the dryer. Ever. No, never, never. That is the fastest way to get a lawsuit on your hands as a stylist. That is the fastest way to cause irreparable damage to your client's scalp, not just their hair. Who cares about their hair at that point? It's their scalp I'm considering, because I have seen so many instances online where someone has had a chemical burn from these, again, chemicals. We are chemists first and artists second. And when you're putting bleach and peroxide onto someone's skin, you need to follow the directions that are on the bottle. You should not mess around with adding heat, because adding heat makes it process hotter and faster, and chemicals shouldn't be pushed to those limits on someone's skin ever. I'm so glad my client ended up getting out of that without any, permanent damage. But again, never do that. You will not get my seal of approval as a stylist, which probably doesn't mean anything to many of you. But if you ever do that to your client, just know that that's not going to get my seal of approval. Anyways, there's me running to the back to grab myself my Framar glove, because now that the second side is in, we are going to be scraping out the product on the first side wherever it needs to be. And if you're seeing these dark patches, that's actually where the color mask was to protect any blonde spots. So you can see that there's still just patches of color everywhere. At least now they're all in the blonde tones. And we're one step closer to where we need to be. And I'm just taking some old 10 volume and bleach, and I'm just putting it on any of those areas that need just a teeny boost. And I'm scraping off the product with my hands anywhere else. So as you watch this, I'm going to kind of continue on with what happened with the previous hairstylist. So she has this bleach on her scalp under the heat, and my client tells me that the appointment took only a couple of hours, which is another red flag. It should not have taken only like 2.5 hours to do the whole appointment. It was rushed. You can see from the hair that it was rushed, but also just knowing that it only took that long. And then my client, when she was getting her hair dried up, the stylist was trying to convince her that it looked okay and it looked good. And the stylist kept saying, oh, just switch over your parting and it will cover any of this. It's no problem. Just wear it. It'll be fine. Like, no one will notice. It looks okay. And she got my client to still pay for the hair, which is absurd. But she got my client to still pay for the hair. And then when my client reached out to her the next day, because she took a look at her hair in her home, she went to, natural lighting and bathroom lighting, all the lighting. She's like, this looks wretched. This looks awful. And so she messaged the stylist and said, hey, I'm just not loving my hair. Is there something that can be done about this? And when the stylist did finally respond, she had already reached out to me, and I said, okay, I have a day off here. I'm going to get you to come into the salon and we're going to fix this right away. There's no way you can wear this. And so she was like, okay, well, that's good. So I got her to pay the deposit. And by the time the stylist had responded, she said to her, hey, I'm sorry, I've already paid a deposit for someone else to fix this, because the stylist said, oh, well, just come back and I'll fix it. But I think my client made the right choice here by saying no thank you to that stylist when she had offered to fix it. Because I just don't have trust that stylist would have done the right thing. I think she probably would have just put bleach everywhere all over the head. I don't think she would have taken the care to Actually, I know she wouldn't have taken the care to do a platinum card and spot treat every single hair on the head several times. I just know that she wouldn't, because based off of the previous canvas that I've seen here, I'm going to be honest, I know it sounds harsh and it sounds mean, but she's a lazy stylist. And for the prices that we pay in this industry, and for the prices that clients pay, for the hard work that all the stylists in the industry who have gone to try to advance hairdressing and to provide education out there, there's no excuse to be doing hair like this anymore. And I know it just sounds so bashing, and I'm not about bashing stylists. I'm actually very much someone who likes to protect the reputation of stylists. Everybody has bad days, but this hair is proof that it's not just a bad day, a singular bad day. This has been years of lazy hairstyling, and there is kind of no excuse for that anymore, because there's so many outlets online for people to get free education to increase the quality of what they're doing behind the chair. And it comes down to accountability as a stylist too, on continuing education yourself. But I just know that stylist wouldn't have approached this in the right way. So when the stylist did get the text message that she had put down a deposit for a new stylist to fix this, she ghosted her. She just left her on red. And that's also inappropriate and unprofessional to respond in that way. Personally, if I had done work like this and my client said, hey, here's some pictures of the hair, it's just not looking good, I need someone else to fix it, number one, I wouldn't have even charged her in the first place, but had I done that, I would have given her a full refund and probably, sent some products to her to be like, hey, I'm sorry, here's some, shampoo and conditioner or a treatment or something to help fix the issue. But yeah, overall, this client ended up having to sink a lot of money into her hair. And I know that this is one of those situations where people are going to be very upset hearing what I charged her for this service, but I will be going into that because I do want to be honest with my viewers, with everybody here, but I also want to let you know that this was a 9-hour day of work, and I'm not going to be doing that for free. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're turning it into a YouTube video and you're making lots of money off of that. I can promise you, as I am making some money off of these YouTube videos, I am not making a crazy amount. And these YouTube videos aren't even guaranteed to be bringing in even okay money. Some of them don't bring in almost any at all. So I'm not going to be doing free hair just because I'm filming it. However, I do give a discount to anyone who gets their hair done for my YouTube videos. And I also gave my client free K18 treatments and also a free haircut. But she did get a discount on her service today. She ended up paying the discounted rate of $120 per hour instead of $140 per hour. Some people might not think that's enough. Some people might think it's too much. I don't really care. These are my prices, and my client has agreed to it beforehand. She was not given a shock at the front counter of what her price was. We went into everything and what it would cost. So I just want to let you guys know, you're welcome to comment on the pricing and everything like that. It's actually an open discussion I think people should have, but this was agreed to upon before we did her hair. And I do think that she should be messaging her previous salon to get them to not only refund her for the previous service that she'd had done, but also send some money her way to help pay for this fix. If this had come out of my salon, either by me or one of my stylists, and the client had rightfully so decided to not trust that salon anymore and go to get it fixed somewhere else, as a salon owner, if this had happened in my salon, I would be sending at least a couple $100 additionally to the way of my ex-client so that they don't have to pay that much out of their own pocket. But yeah, this was a very big, very expensive service, and I'm still doing my job. This is my job. This is not my hobby. So I do need to be paid for my time. And I do think being paid fairly is important. I need to be paid a living wage. And as someone who's been doing this for 10 years and specializing their skills and doing something that most people won't even touch, I think that I can charge a premium for this because, again, most people won't touch this head of hair. And I'm taking on the risk to do it. And I've spent many years getting the education and knowledge through practice on how to do services like this. So I know that's a long-winded explanation of what happened, but I actually do feel quite passionately about this situation here that happened to my poor client, because this is just so not okay. And I know most of the time all the time I'm going to be someone who stands with a stylist in the cases where it needs to be, because I'm a stylist for stylists. I'm a girl for the girls. But again, I also want to make sure that like clients are getting quality hair. And when you're paying hundreds of dollars for your services, you want to leave with something beautiful. You want to leave with something great and something you're proud to show off to people. Because for women, hair is our security blanket. Hair sits right around our face. And there are ridiculous societal expectations on us to have all these things and look all these ways. And with something that wraps around your face and either accents it or harms the way that it looks, you need to be really careful about that when you're a hairstylist. You need to make sure that your clients are being given quality hair and that they're happy when they leave. And if they're visibly unhappy when they leave, and then you got to do your best to make sure that they get quality customer care, and that you can do whatever you can to fix them and to fix the problem. So here is that first quadrant. I know I'm getting so in the way of the camera here, but I want to show you the breakage that had happened, which in all honesty, I'm going to show you that. This is the breakage that I combed out. There's a tiny bit more in the sink, but this is the breakage that was combed out. And in my opinion, that is so little breakage for what was expected. If you watch the consultation, you know that my client expected breakage. And she did get some, but to the extent that she got, I'm super impressed with how well the hair held on. And that's because of the K18 treatments that we put into her hair. And with each quarter, as we're taking them out, what I'm doing is I'm washing it with shampoo with the K18 peptide prep. And then I'm bringing her to the chair and I'm applying the K18 mask and then braiding it and keeping it out of the way. And you can already see how much more even her hair looks when I hold these braids out. Yes, she does have inconsistencies and she has patches of color, but there's no more black. She's all tones of blonde. Some of those little bits in the ends there, those are the bits that had been covered with the mask and have that previous toner in them, which make them look darker. That's okay. We're going to try to even that out with a toner later on. But overall, so much improved. Now I want to show you this clip here where I'm working on my client's hair in that higher up zone where she had less of the black and more of the mix of blonde tones. This is what I ended up doing for the foiling up here. Was I ended up using multiple foils per slice. I would apply the 10 volume mixture to the roots and then down to where the highlights would start. And then I would pick out any of the really dark pieces that I knew needed more of that 20 volume and Blonde Me mix. And as I'm lifting them, I'm putting more of the 10 volume down where it needs to go. I'm sliding another foil in there to lay on top. And then I'm applying that 20 volume mixture down to where it needs to go, trying to blend it out and hopefully not overlapping too much on any of those blonde pieces. And then I cover it up with the last foil. And so that means that every piece has now 3 foils in it instead of just 1. And again, that's another reason why these services can get so expensive, because I'm using triple the amount of, foils. I'm using so much extra product. I didn't even calculate how much the money would be for the product used in this one, and I don't want to. I think I would feel sick if I did. I used so many bowls of lightener because every 10 minutes you have to go mix a new bowl. So I was mixing like half scoops at a time so I don't run out of product. But yeah, this is what the process is for these little teeny tiny highlights and baby lights that were up in the top area that have been more recently foiled. It was just a mess everywhere, and this is the kind of detail you need to put into these types of services. So if you ever have someone who sits in your chair that's had previous foils and then someone tried a bleach root on them, this is what you need to do to fix the service, which is why most people won't touch this, because it's too much work to make it worth their day. This is physically exhausting. You are hunched over someone's head for 8 straight hours with no breaks, and you use a crap ton of product. You use so much product on someone's hair. And as if you're a hairdresser, you know how expensive this kind of thing would be. But all the other stylists in the salon came over to check what was going on with this client's hair when she came in. And everyone was like, okay, well, we've all seen something like this before. I think most stylists do see something like this at least once in their life. We see these probably once, twice a year in our salon because we do a lot of corrections here. So here is when I've washed out all of her hair. We've put on the K18 mask and I'm putting it everywhere here. And yes, it is very yellow, but we are about to fix that as much as possible. I didn't want to put anything on her scalp today, bleach wise, because her hair had been done, I think 3 or 4 days beforehand. So we don't want to risk like damaging her scalp. Her scalp felt quite dry and kind of tight, as it will feel after a bleach root anyways. But her color around the scalp had been lifted to a level 8 anyway, so it wasn't necessary to bleach it. Overall, this is looking so much better. It's not feeling horrific. It's not feeling like really stretchy and stringy. However, I'm not going to be testing that all over the head. There are still some pieces that are over-processed, but the K18 treatment has helped a lot. And I've brushed that through. And as you can see, there's no more black spots in her hair, just some, blonde tones, some sandy beigey tones. And we're going to be putting on a toner overall to try to work through that and try to blend it out as much as possible. So I'm going to show you guys how I mixed my toner today. I used Schwarzkopf Vibrance, and in my squeezy bottle, I've started with the 8-0. This is going to be the base of my formula because I want to fill in all those level 10 areas and level 9 areas and bring them down to a level 8. We are not toning for our lightest areas today. We are toning for our darkest areas. And if we tone for our darkest areas, it brings everything down to a more even canvas, because our plan down the road is to be highlighting her roots when they come in and blending this bleach out into those highlighted roots. So after putting in, I think it's about 1.5 ounces of 8-0, I'm putting in another ounce of 9-57, which is a gold copper. And I'm putting in another 1/2 ounce of 8-19, which is a level 8 ash violet color. And so these colors are all going to work together to try to mitigate any of the orange tones while keeping in some soft gold. And even though, yes, I do actually have copper in my formula, and gold and brown, these are all there to balance and fill the hair and keep it shiny looking and give her a sunny, warm, shiny blonde without going too ashy, because that's the problem I have with ash tones, is that when you have overporous hair, it's going to get really sucked up into those overporous areas and make them look purple or blue, as you saw earlier. And any of the areas that aren't light enough, they're not really going to get too affected. They might get neutralized to be like a neutral blonde tone, but oftentimes that's not actually how it goes. So I don't tone with just ash. I always have some kind of warmth in my formula if we're going for anything other than an icy platinum white blonde. And even then, I'll still usually add in a little bit of warmth into my formulas, because warmth is balance. Warmth fills the cuticle of the hair and provides the whole like Roy G. Biv. You need to have like a fine balance of warms and cools in someone's hair, so the warms hold on to the cool colors and those color molecules will stay into the hair. And you need the cool for some color balancing, because not everyone wants orange hair or yellow hair. But yeah, that's what I do with my formulas, is I mix warm and cool. And I find that this does a pretty good job of balancing the hair and filling it all out. Now, because her hair has been through so much in the last few days, I'm not bothering to do 10 different toner applications and low lights and a root shadow and a root smudge. We're just going to be doing this today to try to even out her canvas and let her hair have a break. She's going to be treating her hair with moisture treatments and K18 at home after this. This is all we're going to be doing to her hair, because honestly, at a certain point, hair just doesn't suck up any more color. It just starts spitting stuff out, and that's when you get even more uneven tones. So we're just trying to do as much as the hair will allow us to do in one sitting. And this is going to sit for about 20 minutes for it to do its full process and darken down that hair to a level 8. And yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do in one day. And this isn't just one day of hair processing either. She, again, 3 or 4 days ago, had her hair fully bleached over and colored as well. So we want to give her hair a break, and what she ends up leaving with today is something that is a lot more even than what she came in with. It still has some work that needs to be done. It still has definitely a little bit down the road until it's, perfect hair, because it's by no means perfect at all after we finish today, but it is something she can wear and something she can walk around with. And my client actually really, really loved it. I'm going to show you those results now because the toning application here, not super interesting. It's just me applying it. But you can see that the hair color is already picking up and neutralizing as it goes. And then I left it in for about 20 minutes, as I told you before, which is the processing time for Schwarzkopf Vibrance. So here is her final result. As you can see, yes, there are patches still left in her hair. There are still some streaks. But I think overall, this is so much more wearable than what she came in with. She curls her hair. It can hide a little bit of those imperfections a little bit more. But we chose to leave the hair straight today because I wanted to show you guys what it looked like from before and after. And I'm actually going to insert a little before here really quick for you guys to have a refresher. We had orange ends, we had black patches, we had blue chunks, we had yellow roots. And overall, getting from that to this, I think is a really great transformation. I'm very happy with this. We had very little breakage to add on to the breakage she had already had. She had had a decent amount in her crown area, some underneath and around the face. But I feel like we were able to deal with this hair in a way where I don't think many people would have been able to do this. I'm going to be fully honest. And of course there are imperfections still in the hair, but we have to be realistic of what our expectation even can be at this point. She'll come back down the road and maybe get like a root shadow or some low lights put in with a toner. But overall, we just decided to do the bleach out with a platinum card to try to even out her canvas as much as possible. And when she comes in for her root touch-ups, we're just going to be doing highlights. She doesn't want to maintain a bleach out as far as I understand. She might change her mind down the road. But this was a very, very good result in my personal opinion for what we had and what we ended up with. If she would like to come in for something a little bit darker toned, we could put in maybe something in a level 7 and try to even it out a little bit more. But yeah, overall, very shiny. It's feeling quite a bit healthier beforehand because we did so many K18 treatments on her. Every time we rinsed out one of her chunks of hair, we applied K18 to it. So some areas got like 3 treatments. Some areas just got 1, and that's fine. But overall, quite a bit shinier, healthier, and overall, definitely wearable for her. This is better than what she came in with, and that's our main goal in a color correction. Again, correction, not perfection. Look at how shiny that hair is. We ended up putting quite a bit of serum on her hair because it was thirsty as heck, and it definitely needed that. And yeah, overall, what do you guys think? I know this was a really, really long video, but this was the craziest color correction I've ever had to do in my entire life, and I want to know what you guys have to say about this because this was insane. I just have no more words. As always, remember to like and subscribe to support the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.